Hello everyone, a very good afternoon to all of you. I am Priyanshi welcoming you all on behalf of Solar Porter and Forestry Group to the second day of Vietnam Solar Week 2022. Hope you had a good time in networking with your peers today. We'll have those networking sessions again at the end of the session. We'll be playing our sponsor video of our presenting partner Solar Edge Technologies.
PV systems, one rotten apple can spoil the whole barrel. By installing SolarEdge power optimizers that enable greater energy yield for the entire PV system, this is not an issue. Here's how it works. The power optimizer is connected via cables to each module in the solar array, maximizing energy production of each individual module. By constantly tracking each module's maximum power point, the power optimizer reduces potential power losses due to soiling, shading, aging, and current or future obstructions. SolarEdge's unique design flexibility lets you install modules of multiple tilts, orientations, and types in a single string, and even design strings of uneven lengths for easy module replacement or expansion. With the built-in Safe DC technology, you can provide maximum electrocution protection for emergency first responders and installers if the grid or inverter shuts down. And all power optimizers have a 25-year warranty, giving you full peace of mind. So why limit the energy production and revenue of your future PV projects? You made a great decision going solar. Now make it ideal with SolarEdge's power optimizers.
Thank you so much, team, for playing the video. Now it's time to start with our conference, but before that, I take the pleasure to thank our presenting partner, SolarEdge Technologies, for extending their immense support to organize this event. I request the audience to kindly post their questions in the Q&A box, and the panelists will answer them in the end of the panel discussion. Now, the time has come to begin with our session on distributed solar opportunities, challenges, and market outlook. And then we have in our prestigious award ceremony after that. So, in the panel to discuss with us, we have Mr. Frederick Burke from Baker and McKenzie, Vietnam, Mr. Fat Guen from ENPECC3, Mr. Min Lu from Shirog International, Mr. Josh Pham from GE Solar Inverters, Mr. Lei Kwang Win from Beva Ari Solar, Mr. Hung Goen Wait from Trina Solar. The session will be led by Fred Sir. So, welcoming all the panelists on the screen and handing it over to Fred Sir. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Viranchi. That's a great introduction. I thought before I do a general contextual introduction, I thought we'd actually have the speakers say something about themselves. But so this is just a warning to them to get ready to say 2 or 3 sentences each about yourself. For my purpose, I'm actually a lawyer with the law firm of Baker McKenzie, and recently semi-retired from that position and now a senior advisor to the firm. We do a lot of renewable energy work around the world, and particularly in Vietnam, where we've been involved for quite a number of years, going back to CDM days and Kyoto Protocol and carbon credits, and then later with working on the PPA for wind with the Ministry of Industry and Trade, pursuant to a program from President Obama way back when. More recently, it's been a lot of M&A in the renewable energy sector. As you know, many people have started projects, and especially on the utility side, and now they want to consolidate them to make them more efficient financially. And there's a lot going on with new projects still, as you know, manufacturing and investment comes into Vietnam from China and elsewhere. We see that the investors would like to have a green supply chain, and renewable energy is a very important part of that green supply chain. So they want to be able to market their products in Europe or the US, South America, Australia, Japan or Korea. Green supply chain is it, and solar energy is a big part of that. So that's all great. Just to be clear about what we're talking about today, I think most of the panelists are, but just for the audience, you'll hear a lot of discussion about distribution issues in Vietnam, and we'll touch on distribution issues in a minute, having to do with the grid and evacuating power from the production place to the market. But what we're really talking about here is the concept of distributed sourcing and distributed power generation. And this is really the key that, and to my mind, makes it good for Vietnam, is that in the absence of a really strong grid and distribution network, distributed solar brings the power to you. It brings the power to the consumer, whether that consumer is an Adidas factory or Joe Nguyen's home. In both cases, if the power is on the roof, it's a lot more accessible and can be controlled and used. Now the question is how to make that all work, given the changing regulatory environment and all this. But hopefully we'll give you some clues about where that's all going in the discussion today. Okay, so with our 5 speakers, let's dive right into it. Let me have them introduce themselves first. Fat, since you're at the top of the screen there, at least on my screen, can I ask you to introduce yourself first and your role at EVN?
Thank you, Fred. So, hello everyone. So, my name is Phát Nguyễn. I'm the legal counsel of EVN PECC3. So, we are the member of EVN Vietnamese Electricity, and we are one of the first consulting firm of EVN established more than 40 years ago, and we do on range of service to support for the renewable energy, including solar. We do consulting for the solar project. We do the transmission line. We also support the Vietnamese government on the master plan and also on DPPA, I believe, together with Fred and many other stakeholders. So we are really pleased to be here today to share with you about what we know and what we hope for the Vietnam solar market in the future. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Fat. Josh Pham, you're second on the list there. Okay, you're popping up to the top, so that's natural. Want to give a quick introduction to you and your work for GE in Vietnam?
Yes, thanks a lot for your invitation. So my name is Josh, and currently hold the position as the sales director for the GE Sula inverter in Vietnam and Philippines. And I'm very happy to join the panelists today about the discussion about the Vietnam solar market. And actually, I work for the solar market in Vietnam since 2017, with more than 5 years working experience in solar. And I see a lot of the solar market from last time, and hope to share some information, what I know about the solar Vietnam market, and predict some trends for the solar in the near future. So very happy to join the panelist discussion today. Yeah.
Great. Okay, that's good. Thanks. We'll be calling on you for that analysis shortly. So next would be Min Lu from Shire Oak International, a very large player in this area. Would you like to say something about your background?
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot, Fred. Hi, everyone. My name is Min. I'm from Shire Oak International. I'm currently holding the position of head corporate financings in the companies. So my job is to cover the fundraising activities for the company in Vietnam and in the region as well. I have the investment banking background, working at HSBC and the other boutique investment banking firms for the last 12 years. I just moved to renewables 4 years ago, where I did some sort of M&A project for utility large-scale projects in Vietnam, inclusive of solar and wind. And I joined Shire Oak about 15 months ago because I like distributed energy so much. I think it's beautiful. I think it's the solutions for any countries. If they want to go green, then that certainly is the way to go, especially in Vietnam, where there's a lot of impediment in the grid connections and also the transmission lines. So distribution is definitely something that should be the priorities of the government. So a little bit background of Shorock. We are the UK developers. We been developing projects in the UK for the last 25 years. We did wind, we did solar, utility scale over there, and when 3 years ago when we moved to Vietnam, we decided to do distributed ones. So in 2020, where there was still the FIT projects, we did 52 megawatt, of which 50% of that was selling to the grid under the EVN FIT, and 50% of that I would say corporate PPA. Um, when majority of the electricity is sold to the corporate off-takers. And we did not do much last year due to COVID, but this year we are doing right now 55 megawatt under constructions, and all of them are under corporate PPA. So totally we are doing around 110 megawatt right now. We are targeting to achieve at least 200 megawatt by mid next year in Vietnam.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, we'll be back to you in a minute to talk about the financing of those projects. It's
Sure.
exciting, but also a changing landscape when you talk about financing. Okay, we'll be back to you on that in a sec. So next, we had Lê Quang Vinh, or is it Hong Nguyen Vinh? Why don't you start first, okay? Oh, there's Vinh. Okay, Vinh first.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Hi, everyone. Happy to know each other here, and thank you to the Solar Week. So I'm from Baiwa IE Solar System Vietnam, and Baiwa, as you know, that we are a global company, and we entered to Vietnam on last year. And right now we have the entity in Vietnam, and mostly we focus to three segments. The first is investor for the solar and wind, and second is for the project developer, and now I am in charge of the solar distributor for whole country in Vietnam. So hopefully today's topic we will discuss about how the difficulty and what the opportunity, and how about the market outlook with the very handsome host, Mr. Fred here. Thank you. Happy to see you again. Yes.
Nice to see you again too, Vinh. Always is. That's great. Okay, how about Hong? You're the last one in our group of five knowledgeable people.
Hi everyone, I'm Hong. I'm from Tina Solar. I'm a CNI sales manager in Vietnam. Glad to be here today. My background is electrical engineer and power system. Before I just joined in solar in 2018 when I joined in ABB inverter segment. So it's about 4 or 5 years already in solar. And about Trina, a lot of people know that Trina Solar is a manufacturer for PV module, but also we delivery for tracker. We also have provide for system like IoT system. So I hope we have a chance to extend more in those segments in Vietnam. For today, yes, I hope we can discuss more about the topic that how we can improve the segment and distribution solar, especially in CNI segment. Nice to see you, everyone.
Okay, Hong, we'll have some questions for you on that shortly in terms of how you see the market developing in the coming time. I mean, from my purposes, I've been living in Vietnam for 30 years, but the last 5 years have been an explosion of solar energy and some wind energy. It's been, frankly, very encouraging. When I built my family home in Ho Chi Minh City with my wife, we tilted the roofs to get maximum solar irradiation, and we had a good design for solar generation there, and we produced 32 kilowatts a day of solar energy. And at that time, you could get into a nice net metering contract with EVN and the trading company in Thu Thiem. And that provided for a 9.35 cent kilowatt hour feed-in tariff. It was a 20-year contract, and the fact that that feed-in tariff was in dollars was supposed to meant it was quite stable financially. In fact, the popularity of solar sort of made the government, I think, take away some of those benefits. They went away from the net metering to a import-export contract, which is not necessarily so great for the consumer who's producing power on his rooftop. basically sort of, it was a bit like a heads they win, tails we lose situation, because we'd buy at the high rate for consumers and we'd sell at the low rate for wholesale. But nevertheless, it's totally been worth it from my point of view to install solar energy in our house. We don't have to use a diesel generator when the grid, the local grid goes down, first of all. And we pay a lot less electricity at the end of the day than our neighbor who is entirely on the grid and is paying something like $2,000 a month to, keep his wines collection cool, whereas we're paying less than 200. So it's really a big difference if you have solar energy as part of your household mix. So that's why I've been a big supporter. We'll see though what the future holds, because I do understand that we've got a sort of an overload system on the grid, and that there's been so much solar. It went from 0 of the national installed capacity and back in 2017 to 24% of national installed capacity today. That's a huge success for Vietnam in terms of greenifying its energy portfolio. For that much solar to come on, to be available in that short time is great. It's understandable with that background that there would be distribution blockages and issues of connections and building out, getting the power all the way from Binh Thuan to Binh Nhung. That's natural, but the fact is, it's there's a lot more solar energy today than there was 5 years ago in Vietnam. Next, it looks like the Power Development Plan number 8 will shift the emphasis more to wind power, and wind power will be more encouraged. There will be still a fit apparently for the offshore wind, although fits to my mind don't really mean that much. I'd like to hear the panelists' view on that. But to go to the policy and the direction generally, I wanted to start first of all with somebody who has the government's perspective in mind, and that's Mr. Phat. So Mr. Phat, from your perspective, what the policies, sort of the government schemes, any subsidies that are driving Vietnam's rooftop segment after these major accomplishments in the past 5 or 6 years? Where do you think it's going to go? Is it going to just drop the feed-in tariff completely, and how's it going to generate interest?
You, Fred. So for everyone already know that the PDPA already revised many times, especially after the Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính going back from the COP26 from London. So this is the moving the way for the distributed solar. So on the PDPA, there are already the section specialized for the distribution solar or for the self-consumption. So in this section, the PDPA is encouraged to development of the self-consumption solar energy without capacity limit. What does it mean? It means that the distributed solar will not count into the PDPA capacity of the national consumption. It means that the distribution solar is encouraged to develop by the government, and no limit, no threshold, and you don't need to go to the master plan to include into the master plan. So this is easy to understand, but the very clear signal for the government to be clear that the government encourage the self-consumption, or we could say that distributed solar to develop in Vietnam. Of course, there are some conditions follow this kind of, we call it like the master planning, but it's the very positive side, especially for the solar. So we already know that on the feed-in tariff is already gone, and for the next stage, the government will not give the additional subsidy for the distributed solar anymore. So it will be depend on the market, and we believe according to the role of the market of solar in Vietnam already become to the mature and developed market that can itself develop and subsidize itself without the government support. For example, we may hear a lot of from another investor and developer like Rock or another company to see how they can develop themselves without the government subsidiary. But for the Vietnamese policy, is the positive signal. And I just try to remind everyone, this is just the draft. So it's not finalized, yes. But in this latest version, especially considering the COP26 and the net zero commitment, this the very clear signal because it's never been in the PDPA before. That kind of written commitment is never been in the PDPA before, and this is significant for the distributed solar. For myself, thank you, Brad.
Fantastic. That was really an informative response and encouraging as well. I can jump right there. You set me very up to go to Josh next to talk about the financing of these projects. Josh, what kind of financing is available for distributed solar projects in Vietnam? There's all kinds of innovations I've seen where, sale leasebacks and, people absorb the capital cost of putting it in and then just charge the user or generator a rent. The traditional models of project finance, of using an asset as collateral security for a cross-border loan, is that still in the picture here? I guess it is, but I'd like to hear your opinions on that. Sorry, this should be for Min, as the finance guy. Sorry, Min.
Hi, Fred. Yes, just my thought about the investment outlook of distributed solar, because we've been talking to various potential lenders, either local or international as well, on this front. So the current situation is that because the EVN FIT was such a giant success in Vietnam, and there is now up to 7 or 8 gigawatt of rooftop solar connected to the grid, selling to EVNs right now, while we're talking, is already considered a mature market from international lender lens. And for that front, a lot of funding is now making available to either refinancing some of the portions that the local developer or international developer have put either equities or using local debt financing. So now international lender is kind of willing to go in and have a look at the portfolios. Or some of them also willing to take a look on a project level basis as well. However, one of the key impediment is that, as you just mentioned, some of the issue would be collateral recognizations, because as you might be aware that Vietnam, there's some sort of gray area of acknowledging the rooftop solar, which is an asset, but on top of another asset that owned by different parties, is whether it can be considered a collateral for their financing or not. And on this front, some of the local banks already being very flexible on this and supportive on this, and that they can give to the international lender guarantees, or sort of being the collateral agents to sort of acknowledge that this is a asset that we can take for progress. So all those kind of movements showing to me that in terms of debt financings is a mature market already, and there's a lot of project has been financed by either local or international debt. So that's the EVN FIT. The on the corporate PPA that we are doing right now, there's some sort of different situations where there's more of issues coming up from that corporate PPA, because as you might be aware, corporate PPA, we are basically negotiate every single PPA with the off-taker. There's no standard one, because the off-taker varies between them. They have different credit risks. They have different situations. Some of them have some of them own the factories. Some of them lease the factories. Some of them have a very short tenors of leasing the factories, only 5 or 10 years left. So it varies between off-takers, and that's why we have to negotiate our positions with every single one. And that's one of the key impediments, I would say, when it comes to debt financing of those kind of corporate PPA. Another point is again the credit risk assessment. Different banks have different methodologies to credit ratings companies, and even themselves they saying it's a black box. So if we are dealing with bank A, we have to follow their own methodologies, and if we have to do with bank B, we have to follow a different methodology. So there's no standardized methodologies for developer like us to understand what sort of checkbox that we can satisfy the criteria to deliver the projects that falling into the comfort zone of the lenders. So that's another impediment.
Yeah, it is, and I'm afraid the situation might get a little bit tougher in the sense that there's new regulations in draft form before the state bank on cross-border loans that may, in some cases, impact and requiring more security and caps on costs. Therefore, the foreign lenders won't be keen to get in the deals. So we'll have to keep an eye on that space. I think there's a lot of feedback from the business community right now on those cross-border loan rules that says it would deprive Vietnamese enterprises of much needed capital for their growth and development. So see how we're going. But in the meantime, all the other sort of financial engineering that you mentioned is all going to come in handy. And glad to see Shire Oaks is helping out with that. That's good. Maybe we could go into now just some two questions on just general market outlook. I know you all have done your market research, but I wonder if some of you could share it with the rest of us in terms of how you see the growth of the Vietnam distributed solar market. Where do you see it going? Any sort of new developments or that kind of thing? Maybe Vin from Baiwa. Vin, would you like to take that one on? Just what does your market research say about the future of the distributed solar in Vietnam?
Thank you, Fresh. This question very interesting, and I think based on the data from custom of last year and also from research, so I think the demand of the solar is still continuously. The thing only is the make the solar slow because of the high level policy not clear, but the actual, that means the end user from the residential segment like the Mr. Fresh family, you install the family system on the roof, and from the consumer like when I take my children to Aeon in Long Biên, they also install. And also the in factory, especially in some the province in the north of Vietnam, like the Hưng Yên, Hà Nam. Many the factory considering about the after COVID, how they reduce the OPEX from the human resource difficult. So
Yeah.
from the operation, yes. So how to reduce the OPEX from the operation? Of course, the energy, the power, and how. So that's the key, the real key. So that's the real key demand from end user. We as a solar distributor, we have to think the end user here, the policy is not clear. So how we do to the market? So I think that's the case is very special in the Vietnam market. So I foresee that the market in this second half year still mostly is for the self consumption, and also the most of the landowner or the real estate developer, they also considering how to install the solar system. Yesterday, I know that the government also have one department, they hold a workshop about the lower carbon, how to meet the net zero in the target of government as a promise from the Mr. Phạm Minh Chính PM, like the Mr. Phát mentioned. That is a high level target. But for the middle level and low level, I think the key thing that we still need to make the market is clear. The key point is mean the policy clear. If no FIT, okay, government say no FIT. If you want to do consumption, self-consumption, you follow the step 1 like this, step 2 like this, step 3 like this. So
Yeah.
every company, every investor, especially for the foreigner investor, they know, oh, this is a rule. Okay, they have the permission to build in the Hải Dương or in Hưng Yên province, because in the north maybe the lack of the power, the supplier and the transmission no need for self-consumption, and then they have the right to submit document. Okay, I want to submit to this department to get the factory permission, or I want to get the fire system the permission. So that's clear. That's we think it's difficult, but the clear that the end user here. So the key thing that's how from the supplier to distributor and end user is connect together in one line with the high level policy. So this is my
Yeah.
idea. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe Hong from Trina Solar, maybe you could supplement that. Do you see any additional points on the market research going forward? Vin's given us, I think, a pretty good overview of where the market's likely to go. Anticipating future issues, there's also the issue of storage, batteries in Vietnam, and recycling too. People have raised that at a lot of meetings I've been in. So what do you think about that? Has Trina Solar got a take on, is there going to be a battery solution for storage anytime soon that's widely available? Hong, are you still there?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Did you hear the question? Yeah.
Mr. Hùng, maybe in your network, internet.
I'm here. Sorry.
Okay. Don't
Yeah.
worry,
Sorry, I just interrupt a bit, Frederick. Sorry. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. The question was really, we just heard from Vin about how he sees the market developing in Vietnam in terms of distributed solar, and it makes a lot of sense. But in terms of specifically issues of storage and recycling, how does Trina Solar look at this market and how those issues are going to be solved? Do you think they're issues that will be solved in the short term? Is there something out there that we can use today?
For storage, actually, yeah, like Vin say, or from you also, that the market in Vietnam is a little bit because of no policy. So for residential, it seems like nothing happened in residential. So the most of the market happen in CNI. So for residential, that some customer, very less customers thinking about the battery and storages. CNI, yes, I heard that a lot of project the investor considering about the storages and even the recharge also, but because of the cost, the battery right now is even they drop back already, but it's not really efficiency yet. So bankable, yes. So
right.
It make the project in Vietnam happen for CNI scale is I don't think it happened for Vietnam, but I heard that they are the project for utility scales. By a lot of the utility scales are using battery. Residential very less. I'm sorry to hurt, but I hope in the future that more and more battery hybrid will be applied in residential.
Yeah, we were involved in. It's interesting what you say, because we were involved in one project as a freshwater surface project, and so solar panels on a lake with battery storage on the side, and the problem there was no difference in the takeoff price, for whether you had storage or not, and so the government on the one hand is complaining that there's intermittency issues with the supply of solar power because the sun doesn't shine at night, of course. But at the same time, they won't pay more for the storage capital expense that needs to be put in to supply the power at night. So so it's a bit of a contradiction that'll need to be worked out, and it's not, as you mentioned, it's not exactly cheap either. What about the recycling part? Do you see any? I mean, there's a lot of batteries being used in especially in household and even industrial solar that may not be the most environmentally friendly. What do you think about that?
In the households, yeah, I saw there are some customer, very rich customer, they can apply for their house, or yeah, it's like a hybrid system. But for CNI and or commercial, I saw that very less. Now it's more and more customer think about that for applying uh, the storages. But I don't think it's for this year. It's not so many customer apply for in CNI segment apply for battery. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I mean, I know that there's some investments that are manufacturing large scale batteries for industrial use for export, not for the domestic market. But I tend to think that the way things go, just like First Solar, when they started their manufacturing of panels here, it was all for export. But now they're having trouble keeping up with domestic demand because there's so much demand domestically. So I guess the point there is that with batteries too. Right now, it's starting for export. Maybe that will build up a little bit of a manufacturing base that can supply the local market too.
I hope so. With the developer, foreigner developer, together with the owner, factory owner, so we can have a mechanism to invest on the for CNI, especially in CNI segment.
Right. Good. Let's if you don't mind, I'm going to jump over to Josh, who I gave a false alarm to earlier. Yeah. But Josh, I wanted to ask you some technical questions, really, Josh, about first of all, really the digitalization of this distributed solar. There seems to be a lot of things in the marketplace that offer efficiencies and different benefits for enhancing the output of solar panels. What do you think of the big opportunities looking forward in that area in terms of digitalization, and especially how they apply in Vietnam?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Fred. Because you can see that, let me talk a little bit about the solar market in Vietnam, because we go through two states for the FIT price 1 and 2, and Vietnam is top one Asian country for the solar installment with the capacity more than 16.5 gigawatt, and a half of that is for the rooftop solar that booming in FIT2, and that is cause a problem for the grid connection in the Vietnam market for the solar system. So that's why we have the pending time about 1.5 year for the solar policy. And actually, this period we see a loss of the trending from the global market that support for the solar because of the pricings of other sources of the energy. So solar equipment now quite cheap if compared with the other sources, for example, like LNG or the wind or the something like that. So the solar equipment now it keep the same or a little bit increase. So the solar installment now is still cheap in the global market. And actually from GE, because we are in charge for the GE Solar in Southeast Asia, and we see for the trends from GE, because you may know that GE is quite well-known corporation for the energy sector, and we contribute around 25% of the total Vietnam electricity by the GE products. And after we see for the market of the solar farm depending in Vietnam market, so we have the one kind of the strategy to move to string inverter. That we call another technology for the inverter in the Vietnam market and global, because we see that the market for the string inverter will increase a lot, not only in Vietnam but also in global. So that's why we focus on that solution to adapt with the new market for the big solar CNI market. And you understand that the solar farm we install on the ground, but for the CNI segment we install in the roof of the factory or the industrial park with now the cell consumption around 5 to or 10 megawatt per roof or something like that. So it's not the small rooftop project. So that's why the technology from our manufacturer come together with the market, and that's why we can reduce a lot of costs for the factory owner, because you see that now a lot of the international developer like Siok here, like other the well-known developer, know that we can discount some rate for the factory when we selling self-consumption to the factory owner, and that means we can produce electricity quite cheap. And even now the price of the other sources increased a lot, and also maybe the electricity increase in next year or in the future or something like that. So more and more solar system will be more effective, and some kinds of the good solution for the customer. So to go together with that kind, the market and the manufacturer go together, and we not only offer for the string inverter, but also we offer for the battery, because the battery solution, that means we can some kinds of the save the energy loss, because now we don't have a FIT price anymore, so we propose for the self consumption. So that's why when we don't have some kinds of the working days or some weekend something, that's we lost electricity, so the battery can have to reduce that one. And if we can reduce for the price of the battery storage system, and we can make some kinds of the feasibility study for the international developer for that one. And if we can solve that one, so I think market for the battery will increase a lot in the kind of the CNI segment. And for the residential, now we almost pending, because we don't have a FIT, so now the FS is not so clear. So the market for the residential as well pending, and now the market we see it for the hybrid, also for the storage of the residential, and that is a new market for the inverter company and manufacturer like us to focus on, because the price for this from the small commercial building from residential is quite high, and the FS we can sell for that one. So we think that the future is for the residential hybrid or storage solution, and that is the things from the manufacturer that we see for the market. And I just got the information just 2 or 3 days ago, because EVN now encourage for the solar rooftop in the south side for the collection of the electricity, because we worry about the lack of electricity in Georgia. So that's why the EVN have some document to appoint for the FPC EVN to some kinds of encourage for the buy of the solar rooftop system. So that's the market maybe at the end of this year will warming up again. So we hope we will have some big policy like DPPA, like self-consumption approval, or even a bidding or auction scheme. So
Yeah.
we think the Vietnam market is very potential, and we still wait for the booming period like before. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they mentioned the DPPA issue that's been going on for a long time. It'd be nice to get some DPPAs out there and operating, but not for the time being. The other question I wanted to ask you, and anybody else who has ideas on this one is welcome to chime in. But for Josh first, what are the major technical developments you anticipate in the next 1 to say 3 years? We've already mentioned something about digitalization of solar power production, real-time data monitoring to lower plant downtime, all kinds of digital solutions to help make it more efficient and increase efficacy. Do you have any specific horses you're backing there at GE, or any new technologies you really like?
Actually, as the monitoring and the software for that one, we try to enhance for the efficiency, and we also have some kinds of the technology to manage for that one, and also we have some, for example, like we have some add-on in our inverter, some solution, or for the other inverter company like our competitor can have a solution to manage each panel by the panel level. It's not the string level.
Hello? Looks like
The
I've lost him. Shoot, I hope I didn't lose anybody else.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
We can still hear him.
We didn't
Yeah.
hear you.
Josh, can you speak again? I think I was cut out there a bit. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We think that we can manage by the panel level, specific level from the inverter by the software, so that can enhance for the efficiency of the solar system. And also we have some kinds of the software solution to manage for the hydraulic port for the self-consumption. So it's very important in this situation for the policy from the government. So we have some kinds of import limit and also the software to support for that one. And we also, I also talk with you that we have one issue for the battery energy storage system for the CNI, because we need to find for the best timing for the charging or discharging for the storage system, and also we need to calculate when we discharge, when we charge, or something like that. So it make the software it more intelligent. And also I told you that the software is based on the AI. So we need to forecast, and we need to do automatic calling for charging or discharging for the storage solution. So that have the developer to do for the FS and calculate the right price when we install for the storage system. And for the normal technology like normal solar system, so the inverter now is a very technical, very yeah. So it's quite the same with the other competitor. But now the market is mainly for the storage inverter or hybrid inverter that need more the technology and other things.
Yeah.
And that's why we can support for the developer to do some kinds of the calculate for the right pricing when dealing with the customer. Yeah. So the main point for digitalization is for the software from the manufacturer to support for that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. It sounds like the inverter is becoming a super inverter, and if you call it hybrid, if it incorporates also storage as well as being an inverter and all the other wireless functions and control, remote control, everything else. So that's exciting technology. No doubt will help. I was just, Vietnam sometimes is a country that is perceived as being technologically backwards and behind other countries, but and others, sometimes Vietnam actually leapfrogs technologies. And for example, with telephony, Vietnam just skipped the whole analog, telephone experience and went straight to digital years ago. And that was hugely successful for Vietnam. Avoided a lot of unnecessary capital expenditure. So the question is, in the solar area, is Vietnam doing the same thing? It seems to me from what you said that generally speaking, Vietnam is using the same international standard technology for its solar industry that other countries are. I would caveat on storage and batteries. We've had trouble finding batteries in Vietnam for Vietnam, but and you can't import them from other countries because of the warranties and this kind of stuff. So yeah, so I guess the question there is really: do you find that the solar industry in Vietnam today, as we have it, is this cutting edge, or are we behind, or what should we do if we're behind?
Actually, for the solar market, as I told you, we are top one for the Asian country. So that means we acquire a lot of the technology and also a lot of the
That's
overseas
quantity, though.
company join the Vietnam market. And in case you told me that the battery is a little bit slowly if compared with the other country in the developed country because of the pricing. The pricing is quite high when we make that one in the Vietnam market, and
Yeah.
also for the policy. The policy is not yet encouraged for the that one, and maybe if we can do some kinds of policy to support for the storage or something like that. So it's very fast to adapt with the new technology from the developed country. And I think for the solar market, Vietnam catch up very fast about the technology, and even now a little bit. I think a little bit behind in the battery system if compared with other country. But we wait for the policy from the government, so we'll be very fast. As you will see in the before period. Yeah.
Good. Okay, good. That's good news. Well, we're actually, the time is running pretty quick. We've only got 9 minutes. So I think we need to go to some of the questions that were asked in the chat room. I'm just hope this doesn't cut me off again. Do you guys still hear me? Whoops.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sorry,
still
sorry,
hear
I
you.
cannot hear you. Maybe because of the connection. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes a minute to kick out and kick back in again. But I think we're okay. Josh, I'm just losing you a little bit there. Here's a question from Hannah Tran. It says, hello, everyone. We're a venture studio incubating startups in solar and agri-tech. Our email for correspondence is, okay, well, that's it. You can look at there if you want to get more information from Hannah Chan. I don't see a question here. I'd love to. Yeah, there's people want to connect. That's all good. I'm just trying to see if we have a question.
I saw one question from the Rakesh Kumar. Question is how we keep the cost down of the full cell at current market solar fuel cell are on expensive side. Is there any strategy to keep the cost down?
Good question. Always a important one. Anybody have any comments on that? Particularly Mr. Fat from EVN. Anything on it? Because this is a sort of pricing regulation. What do you think?
Yes, but I believe this mentioned on the cost of fuel cell, not the price sale Pratt. So this is the cost of the cell, not EVN who buying your solar price.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like technical, but I can comment a little bit on technical because I from technical side as well. For the cost down in Vietnam, they already established the supply chains for the solar panel. So you could ask more about another company, but more and more company will establish the factory here in Vietnam, and actually it will keep the cost down for the full cell.
Yeah. Good.
The strategy is keep concentration and maybe move more and more your factory to the manufacturing base like Hải Phòng or Quảng Ninh. It could be keep the cost down.
Right. Yeah. Good. I mean, yeah. This maybe it's a good question to wrap up on about price because we are, suffering from a global economy now that's looking like it may go into weakness or even recession in some places. And meanwhile, there's inflation and prices of commodities in particular are going up. Some of the things that we need for this industry, in particular, rare earth and metals, are going to be hard to come by. Vietnam does have its own rare earth and minerals too, but it's always a regulatory challenge to get mining licenses and get things out. So that'll be an area, I think, for growth. Do you have any do you know of any sort of strategy that you could share from EVN's perspective about where it wants Vietnam to go with respect to rare earth minerals and how they're fitting into the supply chain?
Yes, I just come back from the Korean conference, the
Great.
energy policy conference on the energy security, especially on the East Asia, especially on the Vietnam market. And you already correct on the rare material for the solar cell. And and I believe USAID and another partner already partner with the Vietnamese government on this sector. And the big company in Vietnam is also moving to this sector. This is never before happened in Vietnam when the manufacturing and we call it the big player, Vietnamese big player, it concentrates on the rare material in Vietnam because Vietnam is top 10 of the rare material in the
Yeah.
world, and not now, but in the past, already like last 10 years, the U.S. military university and the think tank already see about this, and they are already many research. And so this time is the correct time for the Vietnamese government and Vietnamese company look deeper into the rare material. And like I say, more and more factory on solar and renewable moving to Vietnam. So Vietnam will become the next manufacturing hub for the renewable ASEAN, especially for each ASEAN. It will provide the material for Japan, Korea, especially from the conference I come back. Vietnam will become the manufacturing hub to supply to the world. So like what you say is totally correct. Rare material, the cell, and even another technology park of the solar farm in general. So everybody here and Vietnamese government already focus on this together with the international partner.
Fantastic. That's really interesting. Well, lots to take note of there. We're coming up on time, but we may have time to squeeze in one more question. There's not a question on the Q&A function, but maybe one of our other panelists would put up his hand and ask a question if you like, or make a clarification or another final intervention if you like. Anybody have anything they want to say or ask?
Well, I think can I have one questions?
Min, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is still in distributed solars, but again, it's back to the policies, uncertainties. We come across a lot of opportunities where we are asked to build distributed solar, but this ground-mounted one right next to the factories because the factory roof is not under the good conditions to install rooftop solars. We've been asked by industrial park where they have a sort of a pond in their park that we can just do floating solars. But for now, this kind of distributed solar is still pretty new in Vietnam, and there's no clear directions or guidance from the government whether we are allowed to do so or not. I understand that in the draft BTB 8, Mr. Fat just mentioned that we are sort of encouraged to develop distributed solar in a way that there's no sort of restrictions. Even though that's a draft, that's a positive signals. But in terms of the government point of view toward those kind of distributed solars, would it be similar to the way that they look at rooftop solar? Do you think?
The same in what way?
Well, because I think when it comes to the government mind about distributed solars is about rooftop. That's my own opinions.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about different kind of distributed one, the floating ones, the ground mount one. Sometimes it can go up to 20 megawatt to supply electricity just for that factories itself.
So we've only got 30 seconds left here to answer, but I I think one project we were involved in with the World Bank was calculating the amount of rooftop space on government buildings in Ho Chi Minh City and how much how solar energy you could produce. The answer was 1 gigabyte just from Ho Chi Minh City government buildings. Well, I guess the point there is I think there's going to be a more selective differentiation between, especially utility scale, but even just even distributed solar, when it comes to using arable land, when it comes to using water that may be used for fisheries or other purposes. I think there's going to be more environmental sensitivity to the impact of especially arable land over time. There are some technical ways to overcome it, I know, but I think we're really coming up on time. So I'm going to have to say, I'm going to have to finish it here and say thank you to all of you guys. It's been a pleasure. The only thing we were lacking on this panel was a female, and I know there are some in the sector, so I hope next time we won't be a manel. Anyway, but thank you.
Brad, sorry, I just make the very quick comment, like even recency, could I just one quick comment here?
Yeah, please. Is that okay?
Okay, just maybe 1 minute. Okay.
Please.
I just come back to the graph on the PDPA. So yes, it's correct. The PDPA encourages freely the development of the self-consumption solar. But I just want to remind you, it's a condition. It's always the condition together with the development of the solar in any kind. So please read carefully the PDPA and distributed solar. I have to say that sometimes nature different from solar rooftop, especially when you do the solar distribution system, not rooftop, but farm next to the factory or floating is different. And I just remind the investor to be careful on the regulation because it's not the same as a rooftop and it's always the conditional there. So yes, that's my quick question. Thank you. Quick comment.
Good. Thanks, Fight. You've been really helpful on this whole panel. It's been a great talking with all of you guys. I hope I get a chance to meet in person before it's too long. And thanks so much for contributing your experience and expertise on this panel. There's a lot of questions. There are some questions people want to contact in the sidebar here. So.
Can we take this question? We have one more question. If I would be glad if you can take it.
I think this is about the question from Mervyn Wong from from Malaysia. Is that right? Is that the one you're thinking of, Piranchi? So looking at the current battery storage and best solution for excess energy generated, however, it seems quite high price and longer ROI. How would you guys advise on this matter? Or is it better just to design PV system that decides only a daytime use? Okay. I mean, it seems to me we've all discussed the point that it is expensive to get storage and everything that goes along with it. Therefore, if you're just the ROI you're thinking about, then maybe just daytime use facilities are the way to go. I understand this argument very clearly from my own household situation, but I'm tempted to say that many of the investors would want to have the battery storage for various reasons. They don't want to have to fire up a diesel-generated electricity, source just because it's nighttime. So they're willing to pay a little extra to maintain the green supply chain and all that. But I do think also the other point is the prices will come down as the technology improves and the quantity of and the market develops. So Vietnam's going very quickly. I think that's what we've been hearing, and it should be able to get on a more cost competitive basis. Anybody else have anything they want to add to that? That's a quick response.
I have add a small adding because for the storage system, especially for the BESS, mean the big storage system, is also very long story. And as you know now, the globally is changing from the normal car to the EV car. So the supply of the lithium battery on the globally also limited. So talk about the storage system for the solar. I think a lot of investors in Vietnam also looking for the calculate to invest and when the return back the investor for the solar system storage. But nowadays, actually, if you compare the 10 years ago, the lithium battery now the price is already jumped down a lot if compared with 10 years ago. But now, currently the demand the globally for the battery is still high. You know the CATV from the China, they got the order until next year. No need to have a new order. So this is to show that the demand for the battery storage very huge in globally. So if you're looking for the solar system with the storage system, you still can considering with some supplier with a very reasonable price and the check time about 6,000. I mean more than 12 years. So if you want to know more about the fit, the combo for you, so you can let me the contact. So I will let my technical to advise you the full system with the storage for family. But I mean for the industry need more time, because if you want to install the very big 1 megawatt or 10 megawatts the storage system is still expensive. So this is my adding the answer for the storage.
That's good. Okay, I may follow up with you, Mr. Vin. We've been in touch. That's really useful. Anybody else have any other additional points they'd like to make or questions? We should have more time.
I have one addition point.
Yep, please.
For battery storage, in turn, we look at a lot of application of battery storage. They also improve the power quality of the system. I know that in CNI customer, there are some customer effect of poor power quality. Some check of the voltage could be shut down the whole factory. If so, when we install the battery storage, it can improve and ignore the checks of the voltage. So in terms of that, if we look at the power quality improvement, so I think the ROI can be improved if we look at the improvement of power quality. So I hope it if the investor look at it that way, it maybe the ROI not just high as it would be.
Good. All right, glad to see those marketing skills at work. That's good.
Yeah.
I think. Any other points or questions? Min, anything else you wanted to contribute? Min?
Hi. No, I think that's pretty helpful for me. I just want to understand about the point of view from the government about the splitted. So it's been very well answered by Mr. Pat here.
Yeah, it's great to have such a well-informed panel. Thanks, everybody. Okay, that's it. Let's see. Just make sure there's no questions in there. Yep. Okay, it's all done. Okay, last chance for questions. Going once. Going twice.
I just add one more opinion about the topic on fuel cells. I just have an idea that because to reduce the cost of fuel cells, maybe we use the renewable in Vietnam, like solar or even wind. We manufacture production hydrogen in floating farm, solar farm, or even wind farm. So we have Vietnam. We have a high irradiation countries, and also we have a lot of power generation and wind nowadays. So I hope with renewable and some mechanism from government also supported that we can manufacture hydrogen in Vietnam, and then it helps make reduce because we have a lot of renewable in the grid now. So instead of invest to in power generation, we use manufacture hydrogen. So I hope it's a solution for Vietnam. So in the near future.
Totally agree. That would be a beautiful future. You have a green cycle there. Producing green energy production with green energy. So fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if we mentioned that earlier in the conversation about hydrogen. It's not very clearly part of PDP-8, but really ought to be. I think the voices in the community should make sure that it does get more than just 5% of the energy plan over the long term. But the technologies are not maybe all right there available today. But over the next couple of years, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I know my colleagues in Europe, in particular, working on hydrogen cars, hydrogen transport, all kinds of things where you need large amount of energy in one space. So yeah, thanks Hong for mentioning that.
I do hope so, sir.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so 12 seconds left. Anybody else? Say goodbye. Okay, I think that's really it. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining today's conference. I think it's pretty much over. Priyanshi, you want to say anything else about what's next?
Yeah, thank you very much to all our esteemed panelists for this wonderful session, and a special thanks to Fred sir for superbly managing the session and making the session informative and interesting at the same time. So, with this, we have come to the end of this conference, but the show is not over yet. We still have our award ceremony, so stay tuned. We'll be back soon with Vietnam Solar Week 2022 awards. Till then, bye from my end and handing it over to Ms. Geeta. Thank you so much on all the attendees requesting you to stay back. Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Thank you, Mr. Price.
Thank you,
Bye.
Fred. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah,
Bye,
good to see you.
Mr. Price. Yeah, Miss Price.